And we're back at Cracks in Postmodernity. We have a guest who's returning, who's not only been on the podcast, but who has written for the Substack, for the zine, hosted some of our events, Brennan Vickery. Thank you for coming on.
Hey, kids. Thanks for having me, Stephen.
So, Brennan, we have a lot to talk about because
Ooh, chow.
you've contributed a lot to our platform.
I love your
project.
platform.
We're having fun.
And the evolution of it, to see it really grow.
Yeah, it's been
I mean,
a fun
really,
couple of years.
I think I already told you this, but I have to say, like, one of the first events you had, if not the first, I think it was the first, it was a good crowd, and I was impressed by the crowd. I was like, oh, like, Stephen just started this thing and it's taking off. Well, the last event that you had with the three authors,
Yes.
Jordan,
Tara, and Matt.
Okay, I'm going to be honest. I was around the corner and I was like, I think having a lychee martini. I was like, I can show up just like a tad late. Like I'll be like, and things don't typically start on time. I get to the venue and there's like people on the stairs who can't get into it. I was
had
like,
no idea who these people were.
that's the
I don't
best,
know
though.
who they were.
That
It
literally is
was-
the best.
So at the end, Matt took a picture from the stage, and then I counted. It was 120 people at least.
Dude, congrats
I
to
don't
you
know.
because in the New York City world where everyone, well, not even just New York City, but it's acute and finite here. Everyone is, has a dream and comes here to start a thing and do a thing, whatever that thing is. And it's like a lot of people give up on it. A lot of it dissolves. A lot of people are disillusioned about what it will take. And I mean, I feel like a proud, just like side spectator over here, like watching this thing bloom and grow. Okay, I'm gonna stop like stroking your
No,
ego.
but we're very thankful for the articles you're contributing, but also like when you've been at the events, like at that first event, like you were the star of the show.
I
We
had
have
to hit
to
the mic.
say.
I was running my mouth too much.
But you got like great response.
Can I tell you that I think Glenn Belvario, I run my mouth too much, but Glenn Belvario, who's someone I completely respect.
Yes, we love Glenn.
He was in the audience. For those that don't know, Glenda and Brenda like Orgasm back in the 80s or 90s, like public access TV, where drag queens interviewing, cultural figures such as Kamel Palia and I think Thurston Moore. And I said something about the article I had written about on stage at that first event. And I remember being like, gay sex is not political. And I thought, and I still stand by that as it is currently right now in the US.
Sure.
If you're in Lebanon or something, we're in different worlds. But also, if you were in New York in the late 80s and 90s I shouldn't say versus, but in contrast to now, we're still in different worlds. So it's no disrespect to like those that survived the AIDS epidemic, especially with, ACT UP and all that, of which Glenn was active in. But I think he might have muted me on Instagram after that. I was like, we don't have any contact anymore. But
well, you're still the star of the show. You hosted one of our reading event. You got a lot of laughs, entertained us all.
I loved that crowd.
Yeah,
the Fordham students after.
I know, you talked to the Fordham.
Well, they were asking. I felt like I was on not a pedestal, but definitely like a step ladder. I was like, why are they asking my opinion? I'm like, I went to a state school in Florida, and I'm really buzzed coming into this, and but they were really cool. I loved that audience. They were cool.
Yeah. So, but because you have contributed so much to the zine, the Substack, everything, we do want to ask you just to delve a little bit more into some of your hot takes that you shared with us. So yeah, I mean, the first article was in the first print version of the zine. You talked about the gays and Satan.
Oh God, I forgot
That
all
was
about this.
That was a year ago. So you're saying, I mean, like you're talking about how like Lana gets a lot of respect and how she's not one to pander. Tell us, I don't know, like what is Lana's appeal? What do you think is behind her her persona, her image?
I mean, many things. I think it's evolved over time. And by the way, I want to preface this with saying that like I'm not the biggest Lana fan. I am a big Lana fan where I am.
Okay.
And the rest of it I'm not. I always say for her age, I think she's like 38, 39 or something. She has a pretty like hefty catalog. And there's a lot of just a lot of songs. And those that I like I really like. And then I could do without like 50% of them. I think specifically in the article what I was talking about was a lot of times when there are like homosexual like pop figures, they want to conjure up images of like Satan 666. That was during the time during the time, like this is back in the day. But during the time of like, I think Lil Nas X had released that video in collaboration with that shoe where there was like supposed to be like blood in it and going down to hell. And like, listen, I don't want to moralize art at all. Yeah. That's not what I'm saying. What I was saying and still am saying is that it is kind of rote and surface and banal and boring for this to constantly be the trajectory that like young pop gay artists take. It's like, well, to be subversive or dissident or to like it's to be like anti-religious and I understand like where it comes from. Sure. I think I'm sure it's different for everyone, but obviously in this overwhelming, or what was one time an overwhelming Judeo-Christian moralistic kind of perspective, you know, from the figureheads of religion in our communities, obviously homosexuality was kind of like, as we were saying, an abomination. You know, is there anything more demonic than that? And so it's pushback to that. But also in the U.S., where despite or in spite of the trad cath movement that I feel is a lot more finite and given a lot more credit than is actually, you know, than it is grand and vague, is that you probably don't have to have this pushback with these like anti-God figures anymore. Like it's already there, honey. It's in the ether. So maybe there's a different, more interesting way, if you will, to kind of express, I don't know, your disillusionment or anger or just resentment or rage towards, at this point, I don't know what. I mean, I guess religion. But what I was saying about in that article as well, in regards to Lana, was that she released the album under the whatever it was, and she had that interlude with Judah Smith. Yes. Judah Smith, who I believe is like an evangelical, charismatic preacher, and she was kind of giggling with a friend, and I think she was probably there. I don't know her intentions, but my interpretation, she was like at that sermon or whatever, for like, you know, to whatever, engage with in a conversation, in a sermon, or to gain some wisdom or insight or whatever. And, you know, people were commenting that like, oh, like, how could she, you know, she has so many gay fans, and did she realize the things that he said in the past about gay men or gay people? And my point is like, she doesn't care, and she has a huge gay fan base that doesn't care, because it's like, dare I say, she transcends this kind of like tired discourse, you know, the back and forth. And it's the same thing I said about Azealia Banks, really. Like, Azealia Banks is a fat, I mean, I don't know if you say like fat.
Yeah, you can say it.
Yeah, I can or not. Well, because I feel like you have to say that about someone like Azealia Banks. You can't just be like, she's like a gay man. No, she's a faggot, because she's in your face, and she's like, you know, she's a diva and whatever. You know, she's got the Harlem, like, you know, that it's like, it's the same thing when people called for her cancelization for being homophobic, and the gays were like, yeah, right, like, sure, like, she's the gayest of them all, baby. But yeah, I forgot about that article. I do like that article.
I love how when we were doing the launch party at the Catholic Worker, and you're dropping both of the F-bombs. I thought the old Catholic workers were going to get upset about that. They didn't give a shit about that. They cared that we kept talking about Palia.
Really?
They were like, why are they talking about her? She's so horrible. I don't understand.
Wait, why would they say that?
I mean, these were like elderly people who, you know, their politics just don't align.
Wasn't she raised Italian Catholic or come from an Italian Catholic?
It wasn't for Catholic reasons. It's because like they're very progressive. They're like, and Palia's a libertarian. Like, she's a Democrat, but she's like, you know, she's not moralistic at all. Yeah. So they were kind of shocked, but no, all the other stuff they were fine with.
I claim to be so aware, but I am not. I mean, that never crossed my mind until you had mentioned to me later, and you didn't like reprimand me. You were just like saying like,
I was fine with it because it all made sense. It was all true. You didn't say anything that wasn't true.
Hey,
Azealia, hasn't she had some recent hot takes though, Iggy?
Honey, I mean, when has Azealia not had a hot take? She's never turned the oven off.
Something. Was it about Taylor Swift? What did she post about?
I missed the thing she said about Beyonce, but apparently someone was telling me it was fairly like profound. I mean, consider the source now that I think about who told me this, where it wasn't necessarily like a takedown of Beyonce's fake country album. I don't know. I have to say that Azealia Banks has so many hot takes that I don't tune in that often. But when I want to feel a little levity, in contrast to the difficulty of my life, and just laugh, it's one of two people. It's one of three people. It's Mariah Carey on QVC, as I mentioned before. or it's Kaya Thug Missus of My Neck, My Back fame.
Oh my God.
If you happen to watch the Queen's Court, the now defunct Queen's Court with T.S. Madison, or you just go down the YouTube hole, that is Azealia Banks. Yeah. Like, these are like, they're absolutely mindless and profound at the same time. The dialectic is strong.
Yeah. She had a hot take on Doja Cat, which I thought was spot on.
What was the take? I missed it.
You were gonna have to look this up because it was so good. So let's see.
That's why I got the laptop handy.
Azealia Banks says.
Yeah.
Doja.
Yes, I did see this. There was something about some producer or something that was like, you hairy bellied Bushwick, like,
oh my God,
being queer for clout, or a lot of people shared it. Yeah, I started to, but I was like, I'm too cool for that. I'm not going to share what everyone else is.
Yeah, so she was fat shaming her, but there's something else where she was saying like she's totally overrated. Is it this one? Her first album was actually cool as hell. It was her own authentic art voice. Doja doesn't have the theater training, authentic hunger needed to seamlessly be the master of the genre she's trying to be. She sounds like a white girl that grew up in a house, lol. It's not giving pissy stairwell bacon, egg, and cheese. Vanilla Dutch NYC energy that she's reaching for.
Okay, but here's the thing about Azealia and Doja. And like, I'm not the biggest fan of Doja Cat. Look, I'm aged out of a lot of these. I'm aged out of a lot of these like newer people. What I've seen, I think that there is an obvious talent there. I think Doja does exactly what I was just talking about with, like My Demons. It's like, I get it. Like, again, not to moralize it. It's just like, they always go down this route. It is like a rite of passage for every like pop artist 27 under to be like, My Demons, Hell, Devil, that Megan Thee Stallion did it. It's just like, why? That is so overplayed. But I will say that Doja, she gets these big stages. She gets Coachella. I did see the like the wig performance at Coachella. I thought it was inventive. I thought it was interesting. I'm not a huge fan of Doja, as I said. But I think Azealia Banks also has to take accountability for, messing up, if you will, or missing a lot of opportunity. I could just hear her in my head now, just going in on me like, you white. I don't know what I can say on this podcast or not, but I'm not going to say all that. But it's like, Doja there might be a little bit, dare I say, and I hate when people do this, but jealousy, because Azealia Banks has all of that in her. She has the inventiveness. She has the creativity. She has the talent, skill to sing, to rap. She's gorgeous. She's beautiful. And her videos are interesting. Her staging was interesting. I mean, when she sold out Webster Hall, those two shows, I think in 2021, right after COVID, where everyone was like fiending to go to something where that would be high energy, interesting, would be like cohesive, amongst like an ecstatic crowd for like a particular artist. It's like Azealia, she is the one. She is that gal, that queen that's going to bring everyone together. And I didn't go, but I saw clips from the show. A lot of my friends went, and I was like, honey, she commands that stage with just raw, pure talent because it's just in her. Like, she can just stand there, and it's like, she can just stand there, but she can't just stand there, if you know what I mean,
Exactly, yeah. No, Doja, I don't really think she has anything going for her. She seems very manufactured. Did you see her 27th birthday party?
Her 27th birthday what?
Her birthday party.
No.
It was Eyes Wide Shut theme.
Okay. Oh my God. I have something
it was
to say about
a play on the 27 Club, how like she did not get 27 clubbed.
What is she 28 now?
Well, she turned 27, but like they didn't kill her. Wink, wink.
Oh, well, she has a whole year.
But it was like all.
Somebody
like,
get on that. Just kidding.
It was weird. But regardless, I don't like her music.
Okay, anybody who's, and dare I say, like, I've been in New York for 17 years. I've lived, my 20s were kind of wild. Drugs and sex, and a lot of bizarre sex things, groups, orgies, sex club, all that. I always find it. I don't know, not to like be a gatekeeper to all, because I'm not, I wasn't having like sex on the dilapidated docks in 1989 on the West Side Highway, but I'm just saying that like people that constantly reference the orgy, quote unquote, in Eyes Wide Shut as if it was this wild event. It's like, honey, it was extremely tame. It's just like 4 topless women. Everyone's like wearing masks. The men are in tuxedos. Yes, there is a couple where the men are like, blinking the women where nothing is shown or whatnot. And it's just like, this isn't the, what's so beautiful and crazy about that movie is a man wandering in the fake streets of New York who's like, can't grapple or wrestle with the guilt that he has for perhaps falling out of love with his wife. That's the real orgy.
Yeah.
And the real
simpler than we think. Yeah.
And the real mask is that it was shot in London. And it does look like New York. Like, it's crazy.
They faked us out. Yeah, so Doja we don't have time for. But since you mentioned it, Beyonce's country album, do we have any love for that?
Haven't heard a single song except for that one that, listen, I'm not the biggest Beyonce fan. I'm not a Beyonce hater. No. Okay. And it's for the reason that many people that I mean, I feel like many people feel this way, or at least that many friends have told me. It's like, I like vulnerability in my artists. I guess I shouldn't say my artist, but I like some hiccups, I want to see some of the things backstage. And the way I feel about Beyonce is it is so clean and crisp and, 90-degree right angled that like there is no relatability to it for me. And mind you, I'm a mid-30s white gay man, and perhaps there just never was any relatability to it. Dare I play the identitarian game, because on a human level, of course, most of us, if not all of us, can relate to anyone and everyone on something. But when it comes specifically to music, I recognize her talent. I do like some of her songs. I mean, Dangerously in Love confuses me. It's on a Beyonce album and a Destiny's Child album.
Dangerously in Love Part 2 was on a Beyonce album.
Okay. Oh, it's just,
but I mean, all those songs were hers anyway.
Yeah, I mean, she
really. Was Destiny's Child.
She was Destiny's Child. Notice it wasn't plural.
Exactly.
Right. But no, I haven't heard the album, not because I'm like resisting it. I just never really check into like a new Beyonce album. And eventually you hear all the songs anyways. It'll be in the ether. It'll be playing this summer. What I will say that I knew was coming, because she has such a hold on pop culture and many of its elements, including fashion, was that if I see one more cowboy boot on the rat-infested sidewalks of Bushwick, I'm gonna like, it's just, and I love a cowboy boot. It's just that representation matters. And when I see someone like me wearing a cowboy boot, I know that I can wear it too. And then everyone says that. And then it's like, okay, the clickety clack, clack, click, Spurs. Can't see not now one more, please, But no, I like Beyonce. You can't deny her talent. I like her voice. But I like Summer Walker, and I like Kiki Wyatt, and I like Lettucey, and I love R&B. I love neo soul. I mean, you do too, right? I love Jill Scott. And it's not to compare like these women to her, but just a more interesting, fascinating personal story. I feel with them.
She started out as more of a soul singer in the early, like the Dangerously in Love album. Like I was recently commenting to a friend, like for a very young girl doing R&B, like in the same milieu as Ciara and Marie, but like the fact
I like Ciara, but she can't sing.
No, I'm not comparing them in that sense. But I'm like in terms of like the marketing niche, like she was like a young R&B poppy singer. But she was sampling like old 70s soul songs, but also the style of singing, like some of those songs were kind of neo soul, like Me, Myself, and I, Be With You. Like she was doing.
I like Me, Myself, and I. Like
it was an old style, but then she started doing this like. Now she's doing like kind of trap, kind of house.
I like that like housey album, the last one.
You liked Renaissance.
Renaissance, yes. Yeah. I liked it. I like the songs I heard. I mean, I couldn't tell you the name of one song. Okay. And just the thing about Beyonce songs is that you get tired of them even if you never played them yourselves. It's like then you got to spend like 5 years apart because I can't. And I work in bars and stuff. It's I've heard it. But I mean, well, do you like Lana? I don't even know if you're like a Lana.
I really don't know any of her songs.
Okay.
I respect her like as her persona. It's definitely interesting. She has a song called Fordham Road about well, she's an alumnus.
Right,
she studied philosophy at Fordham.
Exactly,
so
she did. Did you go to the Bronx campus or the one by the 59th
Lincoln Center one? But I did take classes in the Bronx.
Okay,
I enjoyed the Manhattan campus, I have to say. But no, but since you brought up R&B, you have an article coming out in the next edition of the zine Because we were talking about like the Keisha Cole love, like this was a viral TikTok trend, like people
out of left field.
Exactly.
Like what?
Because like I was a big Keisha Cole fan. I love her music. I love the reality show.
I was about to ask you.
Yeah, that was
Fanny. Was that the mom? Or
Neffy. Neffy's the sister. What was the mother? Frankie and Neffy.
I just took Neffy and Frankie. I was like, Fanny.
That show.
No, at the time, the most watched show on BET.
Was it?
Mm-hmm. It was.
I had a BET era.
And the numbers speak for themselves. Comic View at 10 p.m. on BET, Monday through Friday, was my. I don't like stand up. That was my stand up, and that's where like Monroe Flame, trans before trans. Anyway, killed it, and I think Monique was on there.
I used to watch Wendy and Monique back to back at night, every night.
Oh yeah, well Monique, yeah, she had the talk show.
Because Wendy was syndicated, she would be on whatever channel she usually is during the day, and then at night they would play her on BET. Is 106 in Park still around?
No way.
I can't.
And if it is, which I'm almost 100% sure it's not. It's like was brought back as this like nostalgic relic, like they did with TRL, I think, for 1 year.
Oh,
but the formula is irrelevant. I mean, you can watch a music video anytime you want on YouTube. Yeah.
No, but Keisha Cole. No, I mean, she had some bangers. She was good.
I mean, this viral moment that was going around with all these like young kids of many races. I mean, I still don't know. Well, they were all singing, Keisha Cole's hit Love, right? It's called Love. Yeah. At their like high school dances or their middle school dances, and doing covers in the bathroom. It was just it was kind of bizarre, but like, I mean, so heartwarming, not to get all like whatever, but it really was like, and I still don't understand where that came from. Like,
I don't know.
I have a thesis which I wrote about in the article, but
I mean, like, it says something about the lack of like sincere R&B love songs that I don't know. Like what I was saying to you when I asked you to write the article is like, I don't connect with a lot of the current R&B singers because they feel so like cool and detached, and like it's not, I don't feel like they're singing their heart out. They're not being sincere. I definitely feel like something's lost. And then the fact that these kids discovered love, they're like, oh wow, there's something here that we're not hearing anymore.
Yeah. And I recognize that like the experience of relationship, intimate romantic relationship, it is multi-angled, there's a lot of things to sing about. So it's not always like these heartfelt belting songs of love. There is anger and hate and resentment, detachment, dissociation, all of those things, but there does seem to be sort of like an influx and overbearance of that kind of disposition in regard to love, like now currently, because I think it comes off as cool. It's not really cool to be in love, even though everyone wants to be in love. Like, love pushes all your friends to the periphery. Like, love is, old timey in a sense, or mushy, but of course it's not. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Summer Walker, and a lot of her songs. I mean, she has a song called Flock Love, with SZA. And I've always felt a little bit like at odds with that song. I love the song, but it's like, if we got together, like all we would do is like fuck, do drugs, and I forget the other line. But also she sang that after she poured her heart into a man, and I write a little bit about this in the article, and it does seem that is sort of the general trajectory of like love didn't work out, so fuck it, and then like fuck men or fuck women or whatever, which is not a very hopeful message, kid.
It is a bit depressing, but also just like artistically, musically, it's not as compelling. Like, and this is what I feel like I'm seeing is right now, being a musical artist, it's more about your image. It's more about your persona, and if it's marketable, then like, are you a talented singer or songwriter or whatever? Like, because I look at take Alicia Keys. Like, that woman could play the piano.
It's dark. I have a dark.
You have a dark.
I have a dark take on Alicia Keys,
What
but
is
it's not extremely dark. I'm just not really a fan.
Really?
And like everyone I know thinks I would be, but first of all, just current event, when she performed with Usher at the halftime show. Okay. I mean, I'm not saying that's her fault that they fixed that first flat note.
Yeah, that was embarrassing.
That was probably not her call.
Yeah.
But I guarantee she didn't have no pushback on it. You know what I mean?
No,
like,
I mean, but we know from the start that she was flat. Like, she's not the best vocalist, but like, do you
but
think?
also that's the thrill of live music. Like,
Yeah,
we don't mind a mess up.
I think she's a talented artist. Like, no, her voice is not pristine, but no, but the fact that you did have someone like she writes her own music, she plays the piano, she's a soulful singer. Um, there's no space for someone like that anymore. Like,
you don't think so?
No, I don't think she can have a career, and that's why she stopped singing. Like, that's why like she had the Brooklyn Museum exhibit, and she does now. She's doing commercials. Like,
But I don't know. I don't know if that's why she stopped singing.
No.
Okay, here's what I feel. One point is that there's just so many more artists now, because you can be an independent artist and you don't need your like A&P or whatever it is, and you're signed to a label or a big label. There's the world of social media and YouTube. You can be your own artist and you can generate your own audience.
Yeah.
So, there's just so many more artists now that it's kind of hard to get a solid grasp on the musical landscape. And let's just say in respect to like R&B, whatever, soul, neo soul, this new like ambient kind of like lo-fi trap R&B-esque kind of music, which I dig. It just all sounds the same to me. It's hard to distinguish between like, oh, I love Victoria Monet, or and I'm like, they all sound the same. And I know people be like, that's like low-key racist. Would you say that about a white artist? And I'm like, I would actually. I mean,
I can't tell country artists apart. I think they're all the same.
And I know this is controversy for a homo to say this, but it's like, I really can barely distinguish between like Britney Spears, Katy Perry, Taylor Swift. I don't know. I'm not really a fan of any of them. I know you're
Katy Perry I don't like at all. Taylor Swift I don't like. Britney, I think you can tell if it's like the old Britney songs,
You guys all love Britney, and I never
more
really...
for the like nostalgia though. I don't think she's, maybe I'm gonna get shot for saying this. I don't think she's like a super talented artist, but that's my childhood. So yeah.
And I also don't think she should have been completely free from that conservatorship. The point I always make is like, if your sister was making those videos, you'd be concerned. Like, let's be real. I mean, it was restrictive and it was suffocating, and I think it was dark and insidious when it came to the finances and certain things. I'm just saying, look, I think something's gonna happen. And there's going to be this 360 moment where everyone comes back and they go to free. But, Ronan Farrow's going to have to release another article in New York Magazine and be the things we got wrong about Britney. This stuff always happens like this. I hope it doesn't. God protect her.
Yeah.
Even though I'm not a fan of the music. But, going back to R&B really quick, like, yeah, there was beautiful artists, especially with that neo soul moment. Jill Scott, like, He Loves Me. That song.
But that's a truly talented artist. Is there a space for that right now?
What about someone like Yeba?
She's not as big.
She's not as big. You're right.
She's an extremely talented artist. But I feel like they're in the minority.
Okay, so we're also talking about like a certain level of like achievement.
Like, I'm saying like most of the R&B artists who are really popular right now, like they're selling a vibe.
You're right.
Selling
you
a
are
persona.
right.
They're not selling like I'm an extremely talented. Like you don't have a Whitney. Like I think the closest you have is Jennifer Hudson, who can really blow. Like she can sing. She doesn't sing anymore. What is she doing?
She sings every now and then on her show. She has that talk show, which
that's what I'm saying.
Needs to be canceled.
Well,
I'm
but
just
that's
saying.
the point. She should be one of the great voices of our generation. But she's not making music because there's no market for it.
Right. Okay.
Because she doesn't have a vibe.
Yeah.
She has a beautiful voice. That's not marketable.
Or you look at people like, Kiki Wyatt has one of the best voices like of anyone I've ever, and it's like, she's just too, not to me, but you know what? It's probably low key racist, and I don't use that term. Like, it's like she appeals to a black audience. She's a church, even though she's half white. She's a church going woman that does gospel covers, but also when she tries to release her own R&B / pop, fusion, it's like it doesn't land for whatever reason.
The fact that that's someone with like who was schooled in the church, like she has a gospel kind of voice. There's no market for that because that's a passionate style of singing. Like you're seeking something. Now it's this detached, like I don't give a shit.
Yeah, you are making me. I'm trying to like find an artist right now that's like really like a singer.
Yeah, sure. Adele's a good singer. Yeah, great. Amy Winehouse dead. You know?
Well, could you make the case that Adele is, or is it? She's not R&B.
No, she's a soul singer of sorts. A blue-eyed soul singer.
Right. A Marc Broussard.
No, I think Adele is a truly talented artist who's, she's popular. I think, but she's an exception. I don't think that's the majority right now.
Yeah, she's like she's a global artist. And back to Beyonce, that's a point my friend made. He was like, there's not many global artists, and Beyonce, if she were to show these vulnerabilities past a certain threshold, it's like that's not the role of a global artist. No. The role of a global artist is like Eurovision on crack. Yeah. It's like to just to congregate the masses so that they can let open some steam and have a good time, and it's palatable to like everyone, which I get. And I was like, fair argument.
I do miss the old Beyonce though, when she was singing from her soul. She would never have gone
it's
global.
Over and done. Coming down the stairs.
Yeah.
With Celine Dion.
Yeah.
The three girl. I mean, that was back in Destiny's Child, but that was
days. I remember when they played that video on Nickelodeon.
All that. Speaking of R&B and rap performances, TLC. Nickelodeon, all that. Someone put together a compilation. I think, how did you get into R&B music? I mean, you are not a young black boy from
Actually, I identify. Just kidding. I'm not going there. No, so my father was big on Motown. And my mother, she played Sade. She played Motown.
Number one artist for me of all time. So Sade is ethereal. She is of space and God. She is, and she's one of these artists, to my knowledge, that never took any brand deal, which is like. This has always baffled me, and I made this point before. God, I'm really going to sound like such a harsh critic, but Beyonce does this world tour. God knows how much money she made. Yeah. It ends. Right when it ends, the Super Bowl happens, and there's this Verizon commercial with Beyonce that does not put her in the best light. No. It's poor acting. Yeah. It's not a clever commercial. It's not funny. And I just think you have so much money. You have a bulletproof legacy. Why do this? And And in reflection, or perhaps comparison, it makes someone like Sade to me, untouchable. Because I'm like, where's her makeup deal or lipstick deal? And I am sure that she was probably approached.
Oh yeah.
Late 80s, 90s, or all through the mid 80s, 90s. And I think someone like Frank Ocean, who I think he hasn't done any kind of deals or anything like that. I know that they did approach him about doing a Chipotle commercial and sustainable kind farming, and he was on board to do it until they said that the Chipotle ad was going to, or the logo or something was going to be displayed on this music video. It was going to be this slowed acoustic cover of not Somewhere Over the something adjacent, Somewhere Over the Rainbow, but he refused to do it, and Fiona Apple ended up doing it, and it's beautiful, but it's a Chipotle ad,
But speaking of Frank Ocean, male R&B singers, who's up there for you?
Oh, I mean, if we're gonna go back, I mean, Luther Vandross. I mean, come on. Oh God. Tevin Campbell.
Yeah. Okay.
Tevin Campbell.
I was waiting for that.
I do love Frank Ocean.
Yeah.
Oh God, there's so. I mean, who? I mean, you gotta even Bobby Brown, Robert Brown. No, I don't even know if his name's Robert. I don't know. Name some, and I'll probably. Why can't I?
Maxwell.
Oh yes, Maxwell's top. Fort Greene. I mean.
Really?
Yes, baby. Born and raised Fort Greene. Yeah, God, how did I forget Maxwell? Maxwell Unplugged. The number of times I've watched that, it is otherworldly. He's beautiful, that falsetto. I mean, no one's legacy is going to stay intact, or their legacy will stay intact, but the quality of their performance will not. I have seen a couple of things in recent years. I'm like, we were reaching. I don't like his last album, even though his last album was 8 years ago or something like that. It was it's interesting how artists' inspiration, I don't know what it is, this is something that people have contemplated, I think, for the longest time. What is it that makes them hit this peak, and then in older age or just aging in general, they kind of, what is it? Is it because they get rich in money, or is it I'm not Rich and Money, Rich and Famous.
I think it's important that artists bow out with grace. Like when it's time, you gotta hang it up.
Yeah.
If you lost your inspiration, let the legacy speak.
He did this before. It was I think the AMAs maybe 2 years ago, something like that, and they were honoring Michael Jackson. And look, if you're gonna honor Michael Jackson, just do a song everyone knows. It's the AMAs. That's what people are there for. And he chose this obscure, extremely slow song that was like a secret track on an MJ album. And it was like, this is I think how they closed. I think it was the AMAs, and it was hard to watch. I was like, what?
Maxwell.
Somebody step in.
I met Maxwell at, do you remember Fashion's Night Out?
Yes, I do. Didn't Anna Wintour like start that?
Yeah, and they shut it down. But I went to some shoe boutique and he was there, and he was high as a kite.
Really?
Yeah,
I believe it.
Like really high. But we took a picture with him. It was nice.
You have a picture with Maxwell?
I have to find it. It's somewhere.
What celebrities do you have pictures with other than Maxwell? Eddie?
Well, actually,
Cornel West, you mentioned before.
West, have a picture. I tried to get a picture. Do you remember Wale, the rapper?
Yes.
He was outside a Trey Songz concert. I tried to get a picture with him, but then he just walked away. No, but this leads me to the next topic, Monique.
Yes.
So let me just tell my Monique story,
Please.
and then we're gonna ask your hot take because of the article you wrote. When she had the BET show, and I watched it religiously, I had my little YouTube channel as a high school student.
Oh my God, I'd love to see that.
It's now defunct, but I made a video like doing a parody of Monique. And I like did the opening of the show, and she's like, "Oh, babies," and like screaming.
Yeah.
And one of her producers found it and was like, "We want to bring you on." I was like,
Damn.
"Oh shit, this is crazy." Monique saw my video, and then it didn't work out.
Any reason?
I don't know. They just didn't reply after a while.
I was telling you that earlier. There's so many close calls in this life. There's so many close calls, and
yeah. So Monique, I asked you to write that article as I said on your podcast. Monique is very close to my heart. She had this Netflix special after a long, arduous struggle.
yes, baby.
Yeah. So tell people some of the hot takes.
Okay, I have a lot of feelings on Monique. I think in general, I'm a fan. It's funny I'd mentioned the Queen's Court with T.S. Madison and Kaya Thug Misses. That was a YouTube show that they were filming on their iPad, and it blew up. Kaya is a natural born star, and it got so big, for those that don't know, that Nicki Minaj was interested in producing it for MTV. I don't think it would have worked out because it is so un-PC, and I don't even know how the language would be on any cable TV show. But Monique was a guest on the show. That's how big it was getting. And Monique was going on some like obscure YouTube stuff in the height and the peak of the debacle that involved first Oprah, for those that don't know, Oprah, Tyler Perry, and Lee Daniels, and then a few years later Netflix. The interview, if anybody has a chance, watch the Queen's Court interview with Monique. It is a debacle. It technically and everything else, and it broke the show. The two hosts split after that. Yeah, it was like if you follow the Queen's, if you know, you know. The thing about Monique is that I feel it's complex. I feel so many ways about this because I think that when she did her interview on The Breakfast Club and she was talking about her resume, and Charlamagne the God was making the point, but it's about the present moment. It's the very present moment. What can you bring in? What are the numbers and what's your worth? And that is true when it comes. I mean, who am I to say? But just objectively or from the outside looking in, when it comes to anything of like Hollywood or performance, you're only as good as your last performance. You're only as good as your last sales, your numbers, your whatever it is. And it's like, I have respect for Monique as a legend, as a person who's like broken barriers, perhaps glass ceilings and all of that. But at the time, like Amy Schumer had the leverage to make all this money because she was the hottest thing. And everyone just knows that, especially historically when it comes to stand-ups. I mean, stand-up, I don't think Amy Schumer could get that money now. And you're only talking like a few years later, like Now, if you're a legend, and I think Monique is, and you go away for like 20, maybe not even 20, but 15 years or something, and you make a comeback like Eddie Murphy's Netflix special, then perhaps, yeah, you are worth whatever, this massive amount of number. And so I think that she was a little, dare I say, tone deaf with that, in just like recognizing, like, I don't know, the basic economics of the industry. I know they're not basic and more complex than I will ever know. I'm just looking in on it. And then she aired out the dirty laundry with Oprah, Lee Daniels, and Tyler Perry, saying they could all suck her.
Yeah.
Because she was upset about allegedly what she says about being blackballed in the industry and being difficult to work with. Now, I don't know if she was difficult to work with or not, but when I've seen Monique in interviews, to me, she would be kind of difficult, because she does this thing where she goes, my baby. And it's not necessarily in a way, I think, that disarms you. I think, as I said before, it kind of places her in this motherly / authoritarian kind of role. Like, she's extending herself for you gracefully, and therefore she deserves a certain amount of respect. She deserves a certain amount of respect because of who she is and because of what she's done. But it does feel a little manipulative in ways, because she also does this thing. And I just saw Amanda Seales do this in an interview, and I was like, God, there's some uncanny similarities happening, where it's like, they start talking about the circumstance and the ins and outs of it and how they were wronged and what happened to them. And then they stop a sentence and they go, now, Steven, now what would you respond to that? Or they would say, they put you in that place. Right. But you you're not going to say the opposite, if you will, or the inverse of what because it's so obvious when Monique would have said, she set it up that way. And then she gives you the opportunity to essentially like dissent from the way that she would do it. You know what I mean? And it's that feels manipulative. I don't know her obviously personally. So I wavered a lot with like how I felt about like Monique in this situation. And then, I mean, I'm just jumping around here, but ultimately, as I wrote in the article for Cracks in Postmodernity, she gets this Netflix special. I don't even know how much she got paid for it. I don't know if that's public knowledge or not. But when you make a fuss, perhaps justifyingly so, I don't know how women are treated in the industry. I don't know how black women are treated in the industry. I'm not them. I don't know. But now you do get this special after you've called years of, to boycott Netflix. And here you are. So there's a lot on your shoulders. There's a big expectation. Whether or not you meant to create it, there is. And I'm not a huge stand-up person in general. I wrote that piece on Matt Rife for Cracks in Postmodernity. Never heard of Matt Rife before that. I actually kind of liked his stand-up. And I'm not a huge stand-up person. I did watch the Monique one to write about it, and I thought it wasn't that funny. And it's okay. You don't always have to be so funny to stand up, but you have to be a good storyteller. I thought it started strong. And then Monique has always been, I'm not judging her, but like vulgar in a way. Yeah. And it seemed to like go to like being overly vulgar in a way to try and be funny. And that felt forced, and the effort seemed obvious. And then she did the thing near the end where she talked about how she was bisexual and always struggled with telling her husband, who she's been married to and known since she was like 17 or something like that, that she wanted to be with other women. I felt this was a massive manipulation. This is what straight white women in their mid-30s do. They claim this new minority status, or what's new to them, minority status. And Monique's crying on stage, and I was like, even though I felt like a tear come in my eye, because it's just emotional. And as you have, we walked with Monique a little bit, like looking in, but I was like, I don't want to feel manipulated. And this is,
that's very manipulative. Yeah.
Yeah. And I felt that like, if this is supposed to be funny, I felt that, this was a way to kind of pad the I don't know what I'm trying to say, like pad the response to it. If it wasn't super funny, well, at least it was illuminating and insightful. And I was like, that feels even manipulation on top of manipulation. And I just was like, I don't know if I trust Monique. I don't know how much I trust Monique. But that's, I don't know. I do have a lot of respect for her. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I was not happy with the special at all. And I don't expect anything from Netflix stand-up specials. I don't expect much from Netflix at all.
Yeah. The documentaries are like, what? Did we just get some people in a room and interview them and film it with some stock footage?
I mean, not only are they poorly done, but there's always some messaging somewhere, and it's just like cheap shots and like you said, manipulative. But I'm very sad for Monique because, like, this is a woman who, like, she's an around the way girl. She's vulgar, but she has a big heart. You could see she's just like, down to earth. When she's doing stand up, when she's in these movies, which are like before Precious, she was always in these like low budget, like Soul Plane.
Yeah. She did Shadow Boxer was before. I don't know, but that was like I remember seeing her name on that and being like, oh wow, she's like branching out. Yeah. That was Lee Daniels.
Yeah, I mean, but she was just like this kind of like I see her as this proletarian kind of figure who just stands for like the everyday person. She's not trying to become like refined and bougie. She's just like she's to herself. And this is why, like I say, the Parkers, like it's so slept on. Like it's an incredible show because she drives it all, and she's just like such a charming character. And then Lee Daniels, I think he picks up on the fact she's like a diamond in the rough. Like she's a truly talented actress, and says, "Let me try to put you in this dramatic role," and she does a great job. And then they want her to do the whole Hollywood spiel, and that's not her thing.
Right.
She's old school. She's a normal person.
I mean, yes and no. You do have to recognize the industry that you're in. I'm not saying that you have to compromise yourself or your morals, but like if you are to be an electrician, I'm sure that there's like some things you have to do or some boring gala you have to go like for like the local whatever. My thing with Monique. Oh, okay, I want to go back really quick to one point I made about what I felt was the manipulation of being like I'm bisexual and couldn't tell my husband who she calls daddy and she's been with forever, and it's like you mean you couldn't tell your like you guys were in an open relationship and you couldn't tell him you wanted to hook up with women? I'm sure being in an open relationship he would have preferred you to hook up with women, and I thought that was the agreement anyways. I thought I read somewhere that it was, so I was confused. Did she mean like fall in love with a woman? It just was like this isn't like a complex thing to grasp, and the fact that I feel like you're not being so clear about it feels manipulative. Like, and also like, look, there is something to be said about if so many people have said you're difficult to work with. Again, I don't know the industry, and that could be the consequences. That could be the consequence that we see in regards to being blackballed. That's just the label that's gonna be thrown out there. But I'm a little skeptical because I think she's slightly difficult in interviews. When she starts doing that manipulative thing and the push and pull, and I'm like,
but I like that she's not a refined, like
I do like that, yeah.
Real, and maybe that's annoying and difficult, but like I just hate that Lee Daniels was like, oh yeah, come try this thing. I'm gonna make you a big star, mainstream, and now you have to compromise. Like,
yeah, I mean, she wouldn't
dirty.
Yeah, and like for going back to like what we were talking about off the mic about doing free work. Yeah, dude, if you're Oprah is one of the executive producers on Precious, is like, Oprah, you can't throw my girl Monique some money to go promote the film at Con. Like 100% it's free, like $0. I don't think Oprah would do that. You know what I mean? Like, no. So that's why I say it's complex. There is a lot of like moving parts in it. It was like a decade of, he said, she said, Hollywood insider drama debacle. Like, but ultimately I got a lot of love from Monique. I think so. Yeah.
But so you mentioned the Matt Rife piece that you wrote. You enjoyed his special.
I did. Yeah.
I don't know how long he's gonna last, but he's fun.
He watched that story of like, so I was like, he's hot.
He saw.
I don't know what I posted. Something about the article or something like that. I liked him. Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I was like, I did a little bump of K and had to like keep rewinding it because I was like, but I guess I like any sort of. I shouldn't say any, but I like to see someone expressing themselves despite the like rubric they must follow. Yeah. It is hard to discern, as we talked about before, whether or not it is just a reaction and pushback to something like woke culture, or if it is just someone being themselves. And, the sort of like social infrastructure that is present day America, it's hard to even tell in myself if I'm pushing back against some quote unquote woke agenda, or if it is an honest, like just natural, instinctual, like emotion. You know, sometimes I can't tell in myself what's going on. But ultimately, like, I liked Matt Rife. I like the crowd play. I like, to the point I made in the article is like women are laughing at these things they're not supposed to be laughing at because they're super misogynistic on the nose.
Yeah.
And I think that says a lot about human nature, and I'm not even sure what it says. But if that's the response women have, I mean, I kind of laugh sometimes. I'm gay, and like when people are like, when straight people say funny stuff about gay people or whatever, or something I'm not supposed to laugh at, I'm like, that's so. I mean, Azealia Banks when she was talking about PrEP.
But if people don't have a sense of humor, we're just gonna get so bored.
Azealia Banks' PrEP rant is forever. Like, if anybody has that, because I think they stripped it from YouTube, and I was like trying to show someone, it was like so funny. She was like, y'all gonna be sitting on the couch with that dialysis machine with the y'all livers can't pump no more. And she's like, that faggot Frank Ocean having like a basement party in Bushwick to promote PrEP usage. And I was like, it's like that kind of thing is so funny. Like, you could say I'm the target of it or whatever, but I'm just like, how can you not laugh at that? It's bizarre.
Yeah. I mean, I did a poll on my story asking, I think I asked women followers, like, if he would get away with the sexist jokes if he were ugly. And a lot of them said no, he would not.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. For sure. Yeah. There is something about being demeaned, if you will, by someone you deem is like attractive or just are attracted to, you know, like, I agree with that. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. There's like a lot of stuff I put up with like handsome guys versus like other guys I would never. I'm like, dude, like, no.
I feel like that should be like the next big think piece in like the New Yorker, like, because I feel like we all know that's true, but will we really admit that like we'll put up with shit from an attractive person?
Yeah, what do they call that? I've heard this term, like attractive, like
attractive privilege.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Something along those lines, which is, I mean, it's just, I do believe that's true. I think we all do that.
Probably.
And if you're not attracted to them, you might put up with whatever the context might be, because you pity them, and that's like worse, you know, than just not even paying them any attention or mind. You know, I'm like, I'd rather you just ignore me than pity me if you're not attracted to me. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
So, okay, so I want to get into, let's talk about what's going on in the city. What are some hot takes? What are some observations about life in the city?
Here's the thing. I've been in New York 17 years. I'm originally from Florida. I'm going to see what I can conjure up here because I feel like I'm not the best person to ask. I live in Bed-Stuy, and my friends joke that I live in like small town Bed-Stuy because I rarely leave here. I've worked at a few bars here, so I know the staff at these bars. So it's like cheap drinks or free drinks, and as long as you tip, make sure you tip. And so I love Bed-Stuy. I mean, the thing about New York is it stays the same and it changes. I don't know. You know, I'm not going to pretend to do the Mapplethorpe Smith thing of like in 1970. I don't know. I'll what in here, but the reality is the reality. It stays the same. Like, yes, it's expensive. It's always been expensive comparatively with the rest of the U.S. There's always a scene. You know, everyone, dare I say, Dime Square on the podcast, but that is the scene for now. That wasn't the scene when I moved here. I'm trying to think if there was a scene that I was aware of. I mean, I kind of always existed in my own world. But as far as New York now, I mean, that is the scene. These readings that are happening, I can't keep up with them. I thought they were all one and the same or not. There's like Dream Baby Press. There was, one that was cool or, you know, whatever perceived as cool called like Erotica Book Club. I don't know who's reading the Sparrow, the Burger King, the Times Square McDonald's. It's, you know, it's like a throwback to like Party Monster, Michael Alec kind of thing. Look, you can stand on the sidelines and judge it and be like, oh, this is whatever. This is kitsch. This is effortful. This is stupid. This is try hard. But I mean, there's always been a scene in New York. And the scenes have always been kind of cool and kind of stupid. When you even look at like Warhol and the factory in Kansas City and all of that. I mean, a lot of people are just grifters, hanging on the coattails of the scene. There's a few people that are actually making something or doing something, but like you have to appreciate a scene. Don't be a cynic and just be like, it's so stupid. They're not really doing anything. Well, I don't know. People that go to work 9 to 5 aren't really doing anything either. You know what I mean? So it's like, just appreciate. I'm not honestly. I mean, every now and then, honey, yes, I'll like jump on down there and have a drink or whatever. Meet me at Canal and Division or whatnot. People always like to say the scene's over before it's over because they want to seem like they're clinging on and it's cool. I don't know. At the end of the day, what I like to do in New York City is get with a friend who has a car and drive out to Rife, not the gay part because it's towel to towel party. I don't understand that. If I'm going to the beach, we're going further down towards Tilden. I want to see a seagull and a crest. And that's all. I will say, and I mentioned this before my podcast, Singers, which is a, I don't know, gay/queer, whatever we're calling them these days, bar in Bedside, not too far from here. I have some friends that work there. It's a cool scene. I like what they're doing because I have never really been drawn to any gay bar in New York City. I know you're going to hate me saying this. I am not down with the top 40 Lady Gaga, Britney Spears remixes. I always joke, I don't want to see a sarcastic drag queen every night, 7 nights a week, honey, doing bingo, doing karaoke, doing shuffleboard, riding mini ponies. I don't know. It's just like, why can't we have a gay bar it's cool, it's a date bar, you can chill out, we got some like nice candles, it's the mason jars, whatever, we're playing some lo-fi stripped Franco shit. I don't know, just like I can't do the va boom ba boom ba boom like the Hell's Kitchen gays. To me, might as well be like obese people living in rural Ohio. That is how unrelatable they are to me. Having said that, Singers is like, I like what they're doing. I think their programming is interesting. I saw our friend Eric of Hamburger Helpless there perform his harp and like give a talk back. They recently had, and it's a small bar, by the way, so it's not like this stadium seating-esque kind of thing. They had like John Early. I don't know what he was doing. He was speaking something as a movie coming out. I think John Early is that his stand-up I saw I thought was so funny. I don't know if you're a fan of him or you saw it. John Early is good. He's good. He's a gay boy from the South, I think. Been in the city a long time. Now he lives in LA. He's got like movie deals and stuff like that. But I remember when he used to be a host at Ars Nova and Hell's Kitchen. But I would say Singers is the spot that I'm mostly interested in now, outside of my neighborhood haunts, which don't need to be named. And I'm actually like in talks perhaps to do like a paneled live like talk back there with different podcasters, like different gay podcasters, which would be super cool and fun. They have this big like patio. Anyways, I'm going on and on. Singers is like what I'm into. And I'm like mid to late 30s. So the scene for me is walking the paths in Prospect Park. That is it. Like, not at night. I'm not trying to hear y'all slurping and burping on all that kind of shit. Anything interesting? The Botanical Garden. This is like, you're getting older when someone's like, what's going on in New York? And you just list like cultural institutions, which is like anything that like a 55-year-old tourist from like Western Europe could list. And you're like, oh, I guess I'm not like, that's the best I can say. Hanging out with like friends and dabbling in a little substance responsibly here and there. And not everything, kids. Not everything. Please reel it in. Like, you don't need to get wild, But I love the stuff that they do at like not that I love the stuff they do at Sovereign House. I just like this idea, this somewhat DIY thing that's happening. Yeah. Where people are like, we'll do it anywhere. We'll go to KGB. I'm like CBGBs and KGB. If you push them together, like. I'm into. I don't go to any of them. I mean, I go to your stuff, but outside of that, I don't go to any of them. But I'm glad people are, even if it's bad, they're like reading their poetry, reading the things they've written. People are showing up to hear. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like the Beatnik thing, even though I wasn't there, or going to see like Fran Lebowitz speak in Greenwich Village when she's like 26. Reading an excerpt from like a manuscript she has or something. It's like that's cool, even if it's like not cool.
You have a point. That's true. So things are happening in the city.
I think so. I mean, you are a part of that too. Like you live in New York City and you have an audience and you have a like multifaceted like entity happening with prints, with talks, with authors, you know, like yeah, I think that is a good thing. I think it's a good thing for the city, for like young people to be inspired
it's
and creative.
fun. I think people need I think, like you said, I mean, on one hand, like some of the stuff that's going on doesn't have a lot of substance. Some of it's not like really saying anything. But the fact that events are happening at all, that people are coming out, like that does give me hope. And I do hope that like our platform is giving people like real food for thought. It's provoking them to like, I don't know, it's provoking conversation. That's what I hope when we have our events. But yeah, so speaking of, so you're going to be in the next print scene.
Fab, I'm excited.
When we hope we'll have more Substack articles from you. But people also need to check out your work. What should they check out?
Yeah, I mean, I have a podcast called Iffy. It's available on Spotify or Patreon. No social media for that. It is just raw out there, Spotify or Patreon Iffy. And other than that, my handle on Instagram is @Brennan Vickery. I work on fashion shoots, so it's mostly just creative direction stuff, shoots I've worked on. I love it. That's definitely like where I'm headed. And then other than that, check out the articles on the Cracks and PoMo zine.
That's right.
That I've written. And yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Well, Brennan, thank you for coming on again.
Thanks for having me on, Steven. Fab.